Hi, welcome to this part of my review featuring Big Sword, Grapes and Groves. If you haven't seen the other parts of my review, featuring this recently released zine for the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game, please check out the playlist in the description below. This time we are going to take a look at the Prime Vampire Patron, the Vow of the Vampire hexcrawl, the mini bestiary and the tree folk occupations. And don't worry, this review won't contain spoilers. Let's start with the Prime Vampire. Little is known of the origins of the very first vampire. What is known is that he is as old as humanity itself, if not older. Old enough to witness countless generations and kingdoms rise, suffer, and perish. The life of a human is too short to learn from their mistakes. Followers of the Prime Vampire are expected to disregard human life, if not outright despise it. His ceremony must be conducted on the night of a full moon, after the caster has ingested nothing but blood for 7 days and nights. Let's talk about some of the patron check results. Spilling the blood of a servant of the Blood Lord is a grievous offense, not to be forgiven. For the next 2d4 rounds, the caster gains a +2 to spell checks or attack rolls, targeting any creature that has damaged the caster. Maybe the caster is temporarily enlightened with the blood gaze. The caster can see through any creature's clothing and skin, straight through to its succulent ichor. Upon seeing any creature, the caster immediately learns its current and maximum hit points. Also, the caster's spell checks are rolled at an improved die when casting a spell targeting any visible creature that has blood. After 2d4 rounds, the caster loses the blood gaze, and their original eyes are returned to them. When it comes to Patron Taint, there are some results such as the caster begins to resemble a walking corpse, their frame becomes severely emaciated, and their skin turns pale. If this result is rolled a second time, the caster's teeth fall out. If this result is rolled a third time, rigor mortis afflicts the caster, reducing their agility by 1. Maybe sunlight becomes anathema to the caster. The caster receives a -1 to spell checks and attack rolls when the caster or their target is in sunlight. If this result is rolled a second time, the caster rolls all saving throws at -1 while in sunlight. If this result is rolled a third time, sunlight becomes so baneful that the caster takes 1 fire damage every round while in the sunlight. The Prime Vampire grants 3 unique spells, which are Drain, Vampire Summoning, and Bloodcraft. Concerning spell burn, perhaps the caster's plea arrives while the Prime Vampire is preoccupied. Instead of choosing how many points to burn, the caster chooses 1 die on the dice chain and rolls it. The result is how many points the caster must spend. If any of the caster's attributes are reduced to 0, the caster dies immediately after casting the spell. Let me give you some brief details about the spells. When it comes to Drain, the caster robs the target of their blood, along with their very life force. If the target is a creature without blood, they take half damage. When it comes to Vampire Summoning, during the casting, the caster must draw a 5 feet wide glyph in blood. At the end of the turn, the caster summons forth a vampire. Concerning Bloodcraft, the caster uses their own blood to create 1 or more objects at a point or points within range. Any objects summoned are a deep red hue and are unsettling to touch. The caster may summon an item into a creature's empty hand to have them immediately wielded. On a successful casting, the caster may choose to invoke an effect of lesser power than their spell check roll to produce a weaker but potentially more useful result. Then we have the Vow of the Vampire hexcrawl. This is for 4 to 5 first level characters, but you can also use it as a funnel for 10 to 15 0 level characters. In order to avoid spoilers, I can only tell you that there is an ancient threat. If the characters do not investigate this matter carefully, if they do not prepare themselves adequately, there will surely be a total party kill. This is a horror-themed hexcrawl, and there are many random tables, so if you like to run modules as a solo or co-op experience using oracles, game master emulators and such, these tables are going to be quite handy because you have tables for rumors, encounters, investigation results based on the Forgotten Woods, the Bog and River, the Restless Peaks. You also have daily events, all sorts of tables for many encounters, the determination of obstruction, different exhaust effects based on the cause of such exhaustion. There is a nice balance throughout the entire hexcrawl, moving between enclosed spaces and open wilderness areas. This is definitely a very difficult adventure with some hammer horror moments. The cool thing is that if the party gets wiped out, now you have an extremely powerful threat or villain that can serve for the focus of an entire campaign. And if the characters manage to successfully complete this scenario without dying, you have tips and advice on how to continue the adventure. Let's talk about the mini bestiary. You have the giant newts. Giant newts are stupid, unlucky amphibians that survive solely by the defensive ooze they secrete. You also have the fungal zombie spider. In the forests, giant spiders thrive, but in the deepest, darkest woods, death is not the end for these monstrous arachnids. Then we have the Shambling Moss. In the darkest forests, where sunlight rarely reaches the forest floor, large mounds of moss and earth can be found shambling slowly in search of carrion and unwary prey. You also have the tree folk, including stats for both tree folk defenders and druids, and you also have the revenant. Everyone loves a comeback. Have your players grown too confident in death's grip over their enemies? Then the revenant is a great opportunity to have an old enemy come back from the dead on a mission to murder the party. Then we have the tree folk occupations, such as the gardener with a pitchfork and a hefty sack of manure, and the spider silk spinner with a dagger and spider silk purse worth 20 gold pieces. You have 16 occupations in total. These are specific for the tree folk species included in this scene. So what do I think about Big Sword, Grapes and Groves? I think this is an excellent zine for the Dungeon Crawl Classics role-playing game. There's something for everybody here. When it comes to players, they have access to the Ranger, the Tree Folk, different nature spells, the Revenant template, the Vampire and Vampire classes, along with the Tree Folk occupations. There are sometimes some zines and books that have these cool character classes and species, but they don't include occupations, so it's great that Grapes and Groves includes Tree Folk occupations. That way you have a general understanding of the lifestyle and culture of the Tree Folk. And of course the judge can take advantage of all of that. And the judge can also use the downtime so that the players feel like their characters are actually alive and carrying out all sorts of activities between adventures, or perhaps during pauses in a single adventure. It all depends on how you want to handle things. The included herbal and mini bestiary will provide advantages and challenges for player characters during their adventures. The Prime Vampire Patron is powerful but fickle, with spells that are useful for a variety of situations. Now concerning the Vow of the Vampire hexcrawl, this is one of the best horror-themed hexcrawls in my opinion. Not only because of the variety provided by the random tables, but because of the rhythm, the pacing, moving from wilderness to adventure site, and then unraveling the mystery, putting great emphasis on preparation and investigation. It's one of those hexcrawls that you want to run more than once. It feels somewhat Ravenloftian, and that's a really good thing. So, my highest recommendation for Volume 1 of Big Sword, Grapes and Groves. Thank you for watching this review, and thank you for your likes and your comments. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. And thank you so much to those of you that are going the extra mile to support the channel. If anyone else wishes to further support the channel, the information on how to do that will be in the description below. Once again, thank you, and see you later.